Yeah, I have several of these Himalayan salt pyramids, and they supposedly give off some type of ions. Now, I haven't measured this with a device to back up the claims, but it's probably legit. And negative ions are something that are actually pretty healthy for people, and the Earth is actually negatively charged, so when you stand on the Earth, you get this negative charge, which is all life is actually negative charged. But I want to get into a little bit about this Lakhovsky device that uses a Kessler coil, but I just want to point out I have a few of these pyramids. And of course, here's another one. I have several of them actually. There's more than two, or there's four of them I have actually. And they give off these negatively charged ions, which is good for the air, good for your health. Up to a point, there has to be a balance between negative and positive, but mainly more negative ions. There is some truth to this. It's not BS, but it's not like some kind of magic potion thing where it's going to solve all your problems in one shot, but it's still cool to have. Yeah, and I want to point out on this portable version of the Lakhovsky coil again, well, I guess it's their version of the Lakhovsky coil, and it has 8 rings. I think it probably should have had 12, but I don't really think the rings have everything to do with what is actually going on with this device. I don't think it's understood. But I just want to point out there's a couple cautions on here. Danger, shock, high voltage, shock hazard. Yeah, this could sting you if you touched it, obviously, but it's not going to kill you, but you'll feel it zap you good. And also here they talk about there's a danger of ultraviolet radiation, use protection. So what I do is I actually have these were actually from the gym. They were for the sun tanning beds, ultraviolet rays, and they're basically for the tanning beds. It's like a very strong filter that filters out all the ultraviolet rays, because you're not supposed to look at this purple spark that, the violet ray, whatever the heck it makes, when this device is turned on. And this is an argon bulb, and it'll like light up a purplish color, right? And what's going on with this device, though, but the thing I found interesting about this bulb is, how much was really coming off of this device. I heard not much comes off the sides, and that's true. If you put the bulb here about this far distance, this is lighting up. If you put it about that distance on the side, it does not light up. So it's actually much more powerful coming out of the center. This puts out less power than the original. Obviously, it doesn't have the receiving coil, but I think it's still working like the real McCoy. And something I want to point out, I'm going to turn it on here briefly in just a second. Right before I turn this on, I want to get a close-up of the single spark gap in the back. And, it is adjustable. That's probably the one thing that probably will need to be, there's no glass on here in the back, where you might have to clean this at some point in time or adjust it. More likely clean it before you have to adjust it. But the original device has 4 spark gaps. This has 1. But that does not mean that it works or not. It probably does work. I'm just going to turn this on briefly so you can see it close up. Now, actually, what's going on with this, because the one fact I found out, I'll tell you where I found this out from. I don't know if it's a fact or not, but probably is. It was actually an interview with the son of Georges Lakhovsky, and he said that when this entire device is placed in a Faraday cage, like everything, like you say, you have a 10 by 10 by 6 foot high Faraday cage, the device and the person are in a Faraday cage, it does not have its effects. It does not work. So what's going on here is, like, you have measured instruments. You could say when this thing's turned on, it's putting out so many frequencies and things. And actually this violet purple ray that you're not supposed to look at, reason, I will use these suntan bed glasses with this. You are not, that is actually supposed to be putting out frequencies in a much, much, much higher range. But I want to point this out. There's a lot of stuff that scientists don't know yet, actually, it might not have nothing to do or related to this, but just to give you an idea of one little factoid, they got a thing called dark matter, and it's known, but they don't know exactly where, they can't measure it, they can't see it, but they know it's out there. It's no BS, to tell you the truth, it's science. But there is about 3 or 4 times as much dark matter that exists than visible matter that you could see. When I talk about this stuff, I want to be as scientific as possible, because the problem is we don't know what's going on with this, because I found it highly, highly, highly interesting when Dr. Robert C. Beck, Bob Beck, talked about this in 1986, when he discovered the device, rediscovered it in 1962 or 63 in a California hospital in the basement. Not this exact one, but a Lakhovsky device. He found out it wasn't a hoax. And, he's thinking, everybody's theorizing that it works by causing the cell's frequencies to become in tune with the frequencies that are being put out by these coils. It may not actually be that what's happening. It may be that somehow this is picking up other energies that they're not measuring, that are actually bringing life up to par again, where life was weak, in areas where people were sick or whatever. And it seems to work very good on animals. That was one thing Bob Beck said in his prior speech, about it worked very good on animals. And actually, that's my common sense thing, is if the veterinary people use any kind of herb or treatment for an animal, and there's other people in the alternative world telling you it's good for people, and if they use it on animals, that's probably a good indication it works, because the animals do not know they're being treated, and they don't have any of this like placebo effect or anything, right? But I found it highly, highly interesting that, it was said in an interview, and I don't know how accurate this was, but that if this whole device and everything is put in a Faraday cage, and they probably did this to protect electronic equipment that was in a large room or whatever, or radio interference or whatever, it does not work. So in other words, the device turns on, the frequencies are emitted, they can measure everything, but it's not having its effect on, like you're trying to treat a dog or a cat or a person, whatever, and it does not have its healing effect or whatever the hell it's supposed to do. So obviously, if that's the case, it's doing something else other than what is being measured by scientific instruments. And, I just want to point out, it is a fact that they got stuff, they call it dark matter because they can't, there's probably a lot more complexity than just saying dark matter, but there's so much out there in the universe that isn't seen or known. So it's like pure energy, and I don't know what the hell is going on, but this device is probably doing something else other than what you're getting off your frequency measurements and oscilloscopes, and that it's actually bringing in some kind of force to the body. Now, I know they talked about Orgone and all this kind of garbage. Now, I don't know. I don't know what the hell that is. Nobody does. It's like everybody guesses, and everybody talks about, there's people out there to talk about you can direct and Orgone into the body with pyramids, Orgone blankets, Orgone accumulators. I don't know. Maybe not. I don't know. But it's an interesting type of theory, because the one thing I really picked up on what Robert C. Beck said was that out of 90, he said that in 62 or 63, in the early 60s, he was tasked with evaluating all the medical devices that were touted to be medical devices in the alternative world, and see which ones were snake oil and what. And he says he checked 100 to 120 of them. And as he says, 99.9% of them were placebo garbage. They didn't work for nothing. But he says one actually worked. And when he gives it a number, 99.9% out of 120 devices, well, that means only one worked, or less than one, right? Because 99.9% is 1 out of 1,000, right? He said he checked 100-something devices, 120. So, but it was interesting. He says it worked on animals. But, there's other theories out there that it's not just working off of what we measure with the frequencies. It's actually pulling in other forces. And, You know, it gets into this almost like I don't like throwing out gobbledygook where people are talking about, you know, build this kind of orgone thing or what. It's probably doing something where it's concentrating actual life forces that aren't understood by science, and that's how it's working. It's a theory. It's a theory, but highly interesting. But if you actually made something like this or got something like this, the warning says do not look at the light, the spark itself. I mean, I don't think it's harmful to look at it for like a few seconds or whatever. It's not as bright as the sun, but it almost reminds me of like a mini arc welder. And it's such a bright light, you don't want to look at it. And that's the one reason we use the shields on the eyes. And I realize with, you know, I'd like to know is if this actually does work as powerfully as, you know, some possibly would think. And even this portable one probably is, you know, I'd assume it's, you know, the theory is also this. Let me backtrack. The theory is it's not actually causing the effect as much by all the frequencies in the rings. It's actually this purple spark that is actually putting out more energies and frequencies that people don't understand. And it's also picking up something that's in the universe that isn't measured, that is somehow directing more life power to the body. It's a real theory because you can't measure it, you can't see it, but somehow or another, it's been reported that when this whole device is put in a Faraday cage, everything, it doesn't work. Assuming you believe it works or not. But I think it does work. If they could show it works on animals, that means it works. Because the animal don't know what the hell's going on. A person might think, hey, this is going to work, I feel good now, and they'll heal themselves. An animal doesn't know. So that's a good indication that it does have some kind of effect. But will the FDA and the AMA adopt this? You know, they should, in conjunction with their normal medicines and normal things they do. They should. I mean, they shouldn't throw out everything they've figured out already in their whole body of science. But the AMA and the FDA and all the established doctors should start experimenting with these types of things in conjunction with their conventional meds. And it may be sometime in the future that conventional meds will be a minor role and electronic devices and frequency devices will be the major role. Actually, I think that's going to be the case because of the money involved and the fact that the money is actually the money for the Obamacare and the national affordable health care system and everything is going to be so astronomical that it's going to kill the golden geese that lay the golden eggs for them that are the profiteers, and it's going to destroy the overall business. So ergo, I think these type of things are going to enter into the market because it's going to become a necessity, because it's going to become unaffordable to all people because of what's going to happen with this new bureaucracy in healthcare. And this is a great idea. Now, it'd be nice if, you know, you could quiet it down more and, you know, maybe shield it with, you know, Lexon or something. I don't know if that would affect it because, you know, there hasn't been enough work on research on how to work, what this actually does. But it may be that some of the old technology, especially from Nikola Tesla, is the absolute best technology out there. And basically, I know this is from Georges Lakhovsky, but the embryo of the idea, it, you know, uses a Tesla coil, and the embryo of the idea came from Nikola Tesla. And he's become kind of a buzzword now, but it's probably legit. It's probably legit, and there's probably something to this. So, I don't know, if somebody wants to experiment with these devices, I think this actually, I think, puts out more negative ions than anything. Like, I mean, I showed those pyramids, and they ain't putting out hardly anything. And like, you could buy expensive meters to show you exactly what ions are being put out. I think this puts out loads of ions, which are beneficial to the body. And it's also bringing a negative charge into the body. Probably like having, you know, if I just took a wild guess, you You know, we talk about the magnetic pulsar using the negative side of the magnetic pulsar, the north side or negative side of the magnetic pulsar to bring a negative charge into the body, which is healing effect. This is, I would guess, and it's a total guess, this is probably like using many magnetic pulsars at once. That's what I'm guessing. So, probably a very smart device to own. Probably. My guess, but I don't know this for a fact. It would be nice if the actual real doctors who have the scientific equipment and the real patients and can do the real studies and write them down would evaluate these devices and slowly bring them into the market as bona fide medical devices. That would be nice.